All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We are diving into a topic today that I know a lot of our listeners have been asking about, flexibility
Yeah.
and joint mobility. We're going to get into all of it. You're here because you want to understand it,
Absolutely.
to finally nail that high kick.
Yeah.
Touch your toes, or, maybe just move through your day and feel a little less stiff. And I know our listeners, they want the good stuff, the practical knowledge.
Yeah.
Right, that'll make a difference.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get bogged down with a bunch of technical jargon.
Right.
You don't want to be bored.
Nope.
You want to be entertained.
Absolutely.
So this is going to be your shortcut to unlocking better movement, healthier joints. And the great news is,
Yeah.
it's stuff you can do right now.
Yeah.
No equipment, no training partner needed.
That's right.
So we've gone deep into effective martial arts training with no equipment or partner for line. Ageless flexibility and joint mobility. We've extracted the core principles to make this immediately useful for you, whether you're into martial arts
Yeah.
or just want to, feel better in your own body,
Yeah.
which I think everybody does. So we're going to break down those two main types of flexibility, the dynamic and the static. We're going to talk about why warming up and cooling down is non-negotiable,
Right.
and then really dive into the effective stretching techniques
Yeah.
and some simple guidelines to get you on the path to better flexibility. So remember, this isn't just about martial arts. It's about moving with freedom, feeling good, and preventing injury.
Exactly. In everyday life.
Yeah, in your everyday life.
Yeah.
So let's define what we're actually talking about here when we say flexibility.
Sure.
The book breaks it down
Yeah.
into two key areas. So first,
Right.
you've got dynamic flexibility. This is your flexibility in motion.
All right.
So think about swinging your arm
Right.
to throw a ball.
Yeah.
Or, swinging your leg for a kick.
Absolutely.
Then you have
Yeah.
static flexibility, which is your range of motion.
Right.
When you're still,
Yeah.
like holding a hamstring stretch.
Right.
You're not moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think most people think of that static stretching when they think about being flexible.
Yeah.
But it's really that dynamic that impacts how you move
Yeah.
and perform in lots of different activities.
Absolutely. So why should we even care?
Yeah. Why bother?
Why bother? So the book uses a perfect example, the high kick.
Yeah.
And if you're into martial arts, you know that it's so much more
Yes.
than just getting your foot up high.
Right.
It's everything else.
Absolutely.
So your flexibility in your hips, hamstrings, even your back directly affects your balance,
Right.
power,
Yeah.
speed of the kick, how quickly you can recover, how quickly you can react afterwards. I mean, it's really a whole body
Right.
sort of symphony of movement
It is.
going on when you do something like that.
Like a chain reaction
Yes.
through your whole body.
Yeah. And trying to do something like throw a powerful kick when you're feeling tight and restricted,
Yeah.
that's like trying to drive with the brakes on.
It's not going to go well.
Not going to go well.
Yeah.
So, as we age, what happens? We get stiff
Yeah.
and we lose flexibility.
Right.
And the book points out this isn't an inevitable decline.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that happens if you don't combat it.
Right.
So targeted flexibility work
Yeah.
can actually combat this.
Absolutely.
Make it easier to bend down,
Yeah.
pick something up, reach for something on a high shelf.
Yeah.
Just make you feel,
More comfortable.
more comfortable.
After getting through your day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the book talks about when you increase your range of motion,
Yeah.
that actually makes your muscles and your joints more resilient.
Yeah.
So you're less prone to injury.
Yeah.
You're less prone to strains,
Yeah.
sprains,
Absolutely.
all that stuff. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The book even gets into your overall health habits
Yeah.
and how they play a role in your flexibility. Specifically, they mention diet and hydration. Now, they do note
Yeah.
that this is covered in more detail in another volume,
Right.
but they point out that staying properly hydrated and eating a good diet can actually make your muscles more pliable
Yeah.
and responsive to stretching. So think about a dehydrated muscle, like a stiff, dry rubber band.
Yeah.
Much more likely to snap.
Yeah. You're going to get injured.
Yeah, you're going to get injured.
Yeah.
On the flip side, carrying excess weight,
Yeah.
whether it's bulky muscle that restricts your movement
Right.
or extra body fat, that can also hinder your flexibility.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it makes you think about how interconnected everything in your body is.
It really does.
So flexibility is not just this
Yeah.
isolated physical attribute.
Right.
It's affected by And it affects
Yeah,
other aspects of our health.
it does. Now, the book refers to a martial arts style body, right? And they're not talking about aesthetics here.
Right.
They're talking about a body that's
Efficient. Yeah.
capable.
And moves well.
Yeah. Lean and mean.
Yeah.
But they're not saying that you have to be ripped
Right.
to have a martial arts style body.
No.
It's just, it functions properly. It's not over encumbered by anything. So here's a practical takeaway from the book. They talk about focusing on your tightest areas. So we all have those spots
We do.
that just feel stiff and restricted. I think for most of us who sit all day,
Yeah.
it's the lower back
Or back.
and the hips. But here's a key insight. Flexibility isn't universal.
Right. Okay.
So just because you might have good hamstring flexibility doesn't mean your shoulders are mobile.
Right.
You really need to assess your own body
Yeah.
and target your stretching efforts
Right.
where you need them the most.
That's so important because it's easy to focus on the stretches we're good at.
Absolutely.
You know, the ones that feel good.
Yeah.
But to really improve,
Yeah.
you have to address those limitations.
Yeah.
So a balanced approach ensures that your whole body can move freely and efficiently.
Yeah. So how do we start
Yeah.
improving our flexibility? Where do we begin? The book really emphasizes the importance of the warm-up.
The warm-up, yeah. So important.
So they explain that the temperature of your joints and muscles
Right.
really impacts how much they can stretch.
Yeah.
Trying to force a deep stretch
Yeah.
when you're cold
Yeah.
is not only ineffective, but it can lead to injury.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're setting yourself up
It's just not good.
for failure.
Yeah. It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So the book recommends a specific warm-up sequence.
Yeah.
And it's not just a few casual stretches.
Right.
This is the real deal. So they suggest starting with joint rotations.
Yeah.
These are slow, circular movements through the full range of motion for every major joint.
Okay.
From your toes
Okay.
all the way up to your neck.
Oh, wow.
So the idea is to gently lubricate and prepare each joint for movement,
Yeah.
spending maybe 5 or 6 seconds
Okay.
on each rotation
Yeah.
in both directions.
Right.
So you're going one way and then the other way.
Okay.
Just getting things moving smoothly,
Yeah. It makes sense.
increase blood flow to the joints.
Right.
And then they recommend some light aerobic activity.
Okay.
So this could be like a brisk walk, jog in place, skip rope, something simple.
Right.
For at least 5 minutes.
Okay.
Just enough to slightly elevate your heart rate
Yeah.
and raise your overall body temperature.
Right.
And then it gets interesting.
All right.
They recommend light and quick,
Okay.
static stretching.
Interesting.
Now, the goal here
Right.
isn't to increase your permanent flexibility.
Okay.
It's to gently prepare
Okay.
the specific muscles that you're going to be using more intensely during your workout or your deeper stretching session.
Okay.
So if you're short on time, focus on those areas.
Yeah.
That you're going to be stressing the most.
Makes sense.
And then the final component of this recommended warm-up
Right.
is light
Okay.
and relaxed,
Okay.
dynamic stretching.
So these are movements
Yeah.
that take your limbs
Yeah.
and joints through their full range of motion,
Yeah.
but in a controlled, unforced way.
Exactly.
So think like
yeah.
gentle leg swings,
Yeah.
arm circles, torso twists,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
It's important to understand that this type of stretching
Yeah.
is distinct from
Right.
the long holds
Right.
that you do
Yeah.
to actually improve your flexibility
Yeah.
over time.
Right.
This is just getting you ready
Right.
for what's to come.
Yeah. Preparing your body
Yeah.
for what's next.
So it's like prepping the canvas.
Yeah.
Before you paint, you need that base layer
Right.
to make sure that your final masterpiece,
Yeah.
which is your flexibility training
Right.
or your
Workout.
workout, goes smoothly.
Yep.
What about after you finish your activity?
The cool down.
Yeah, they emphasize the importance of a proper cool down.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. They recommend doing dynamic stretching before static stretching
Okay. Interesting.
in your cool down.
Yeah.
So the main reasons are to help decrease soreness
Okay.
and actually promote muscle growth.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens during exercise, especially strength training,
Right.
is your muscles can experience this
Okay.
pump
Okay.
where they actually shorten.
Okay. Yeah.
So because you don't always move through
Right.
the full range of motion,
Yeah.
when you're doing your strength exercises,
Yeah.
it's really essential to stretch afterwards.
Okay.
So to prevent those muscles from becoming restricted in that shortened state.
Okay.
So dynamic stretching first helps to gradually bring your body back to a resting state,
Okay.
while the static stretching then helps to lengthen the muscles
Right.
and contribute to that leaner, more toned look,
Right.
rather than the bulky.
So you're not going to get too big.
You're not going to get too big.
If you're doing dynamic stretching before static
Right.
in the cool down.
Exactly. And the cool down stretching also helps your body get rid of those metabolic byproducts,
Yeah.
like lactic acid,
Right.
which cause that next day
Oh, yeah.
soreness,
The dreaded soreness.
the dreaded soreness. So if you do a good cool down,
Yeah.
you're actually going to recover faster.
That makes sense.
So you can get back to your activities
Right.
sooner, feeling better.
That's great.
So the book outlines 3 primary goals for stretching.
Okay.
So warming up your body
Mm-hmm.
for activity,
Yeah.
actively working to increase your flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
and aiding in post-workout recovery.
Right.
So each of those has a slightly different focus
Okay.
in terms of what kind of stretches you're doing
Right.
and how long you're holding them.
Right.
Now, something that might seem obvious,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's worth noting,
Okay.
is the book's point about clothing.
Clothing. Okay. Yeah.
So they say that what you wear
Yeah.
can really restrict your movement,
Right. Yeah.
especially when you're trying to push your range of motion.
Yeah. Absolutely.
During flexibility work, you don't want your clothes getting in the way or, ripping.
Right. Especially if you're trying to increase your flexibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So ideally,
Yeah.
they recommend stretching naked.
Oh, okay.
So while that's not always practical
Yeah.
or socially acceptable,
Right.
the core principle here
Yeah.
is to wear clothes
Right.
that offer no restriction.
Right.
So they suggest things like go-go pants,
Okay.
yoga pants,
Yeah.
or even just a really oversized t-shirt.
Right.
The point is,
Mm-hmm.
allow your body to move without restriction.
Without any limitation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how long you should hold these stretches.
Okay.
So, for the light, static stretches
Yeah.
that you're doing in your warm-up
Yeah.
and in your cool-down,
Okay.
they recommend about 10 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
But when you're specifically working
Mm-hmm.
on increasing your flexibility,
Right.
you should aim for at least 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay.
They actually recommend
Yeah.
mentally counting
Okay.
to make sure you're hitting that full duration.
To make sure you're actually doing
Yeah,
it.
right. Now, it's also important to pay attention to the sensations.
Right.
You want to make sure you're feeling a good, effective stretch,
Yeah.
not actual pain.
Right.
So, what you should feel
Hmm.
is a sense of tension
Okay.
or a mild pins and needles.
Okay. Yeah.
That generally indicates you're stretching effectively.
Right.
But if you experience a sudden, sharp ouch pain, ease out of that stretch immediately.
Stop right away.
Don't push it.
Yeah. Don't push it.
They also mention
Yeah.
that a burning sensation
Right.
often precedes
Okay.
a sharp pain.
Oh, so that's a warning sign.
It is a warning sign.
Okay.
So if you start feeling that,
Yeah.
back off.
Right.
So never force a stretch
Mm-mm.
into sharp pain.
No.
And breathing.
Yes. Breathing.
So crucial.
So important.
During stretching, the book really emphasizes
Yeah.
slow, relaxed, consistent breathing
Mm-hmm.
throughout all your stretches.
Right.
And when you're holding a static stretch
Mm-hmm.
and you want to deepen it,
Yeah.
you exhale
Oh, okay.
as you move further
Okay.
into the stretch.
Okay.
They even give a specific breathing pattern.
Oh, wow.
So you inhale
Yeah.
deeply through your nose, filling your abdomen, hold for a brief moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then exhale slowly and completely through your mouth.
Wow.
The key is to stay relaxed and avoid holding your breath,
Right.
because that just tenses you up.
Yeah.
So this next concept is called synergy in stretching.
Oh, okay. What is that?
So the idea is
Mm-hmm.
you can enhance the effectiveness of your stretches by also working
Okay.
the muscles and joints that support,
Yeah.
or oppose the ones you're directly targeting.
Oh, so it's all about understanding how different muscle groups interact.
Exactly. So is it kind of like, you want to stretch both the front and back of your leg to get a more balanced and deeper stretch?
Exactly. So the book gives some really practical examples.
Okay.
So for targeting your upper back, they suggest the seated lower trunk extensor stretch.
Okay.
And then for the lower back, they recommend the lower trunk flexor stretch.
Okay.
So by doing both of those, you're addressing the whole back in a really comprehensive way.
I like that.
Yeah. And they give similar pairings. Okay.
For your sides.
Okay.
Buttocks.
Yeah.
Hamstrings.
Yeah.
Calves. Shins. Quads. Arms. And chest.
So you're thinking about not just isolating one muscle, but thinking about all the surrounding structures as well.
Right.
Okay. So the book then goes into dynamic stretching.
Yeah.
And they give a ton of examples. And again, they're emphasizing these are gentle, controlled movements.
Right.
You're not pushing yourself to fatigue here.
No.
You're just moving.
Just moving.
Yeah.
And they typically recommend doing around 8 to 15 reps for each exercise.
Okay.
So let's go through a few to give our listeners an idea.
Okay.
So there's the forward leg swing,
Right.
which is great for the hamstrings, and hip flexors.
Right.
So you just hold on to something for balance.
Okay.
Swing one leg forward and backward. You gradually increase the height of the swing as you feel comfortable.
Okay.
And then for a more advanced variation, you can try it without holding on.
Right.
And you could even try to touch your toe.
Oh, wow.
With your opposite hand at the peak of your swing.
Right.
Then we have the sideways leg swing.
Okay.
Which is good for those adductor muscles.
Right.
So on the inside of your thighs.
Okay.
So you're standing facing a wall. Use your hands for support.
Okay.
And swing one leg at a time. Out to the side. And then back across your body.
Okay.
As you swing, you can gently come up onto the toes of your supporting foot.
Okay.
It's important to keep your torso facing forward to really isolate those adductors.
Okay.
Then we have the bent over torso twist.
Okay.
Which is a great dynamic stretch.
Yeah.
For your whole torso.
Right.
So you stand with a wide stance.
Yeah.
And you bend forward.
Okay.
And you reach one hand towards the opposite foot. And as you do that, you rotate your torso.
Okay.
And you look up towards your raised hand.
Right.
They suggest doing about 30 reps at a moderate pace, making sure to keep your back relatively straight and your knees slightly bent, not locked.
Okay.
Then there's the yin and yang.
The yin and yang. Okay.
Exercise, which is good for the groin.
Okay.
So you start in a downward facing position, like you're about to do a push-up.
Yeah.
And then you just shift your weight from one extended leg to the other.
Right.
You can keep your hands on your knees or your thighs for support.
Okay.
Then there's the backward bend with the toe touch.
Backward bend with the toe touch. Okay.
Which is good for your back and your hamstrings.
All right.
So you start with your hands on your hips.
Yeah.
And you gently lean backward, pushing your hips forward.
Okay.
Then you immediately go into a forward bend.
Yeah.
Reaching down to touch the ground.
Right.
With your whole hand.
Okay.
If possible.
If you can.
And then there's the sideways bend.
Okay.
Which is a pretty straightforward stretch.
Yeah.
For your sides.
Right.
You put your hands behind your head.
Okay.
Your elbows point back.
Okay.
You just bend from side to side.
Okay.
You hold the stretch briefly at the end.
Okay.
And breathe.
Right.
Then we have the Tai Chi waist turner.
The Tai Chi waist turner. Okay.
So this is more of an active movement. For your waist, back, even your internal organs.
Oh, wow.
So you stand with your arms relaxed and dangling.
Yeah.
And then you gently rotate your waist.
Okay.
Allowing your arms to swing freely.
Right.
And just lightly slap against your lower back.
Okay.
And kidney area.
Gotcha.
And they recommend doing like 50 to 100 reps.
Oh, wow.
For this one.
Okay.
Then for your shoulders and upper back.
Yeah.
We have the beach ball.
The beach ball
Exercise. So you just raise your hands overhead with your palms facing each other. Reach up as high as you can, engaging your traps.
Yeah.
And then relax.
Okay.
And then you have buckets of sand.
Buckets of sand, okay.
Which is another good one.
Yeah.
For your shoulders.
Yeah.
And elbows.
Right.
So you bring your hands
up
to your armpits.
Yeah.
And you move your elbows up and down.
Okay.
and then back and forth, keeping them roughly at ear height.
Gotcha.
And then there's the towel or stick.
The towel or stick.
Exercise.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is good for the shoulders,
Yeah.
chest, and back.
Okay.
So you'll hold a towel or a light stick with straight arms, and you move it up over your head and down behind you towards your buttocks.
Yeah.
As you exhale. And then back up as you inhale.
Okay.
There's also a sideways variation.
Okay.
They say the closer your hands are on the towel or stick, the more challenging the stretch.
Makes sense.
We've also got the Hindu push-up.
Okay. The Hindu push-up.
Sure. Which is more of a full-body movement.
Yeah.
So you start in a wide stance. Then you move. Back and up into a position similar to downward dog.